On an ice hockey rink, young Riley is getting ready for a big game. Her parents are there to support her, and inside her mind, her core emotions, joy, sadness, fear, anger, and disgust, are working in the control room. As the match begins, Riley, fueled by anger's determination, skillfully dribbles past the opposing team and scores the first goal. However, Riley later makes a serious foul while trying to block an opponent, causing her to be sidelined for a few minutes. While waiting to get back in the game, Joy reflects on how much Riley has grown. Now 13 years old, she is a loving daughter, dedicated student, and a close friend to Bree and Grace. When Riley returns to the ice, the game is tied, but with Joy's encouragement, she assists a teammate in scoring the winning goal. A professional coach, impressed by their performance, invites Riley and her friends to a hockey camp where they could have the chance to play for professional teams. Later, Riley celebrates with her parents, but feels uneasy about the foul she committed. To help Riley focus on the positive, Joy uses a new machine that sends uncomfortable memories to the back of Riley's mind, allowing her to concentrate on her good memories and the game while keeping negative thoughts at bay. Joy then takes sadness to a new area called the System of Convictions, where they find a fountain made of threads of light, symbolizing Riley's sense of self, her core essence. After a long day, the emotions prepare to rest, but they are suddenly alerted by a new alarm labeled puberty. The emotions panic as Joy tries to discard the alarm, only for several operators to arrive and start remodeling the control room to make space for new emotions. However, the job is left incomplete when the workers leave for lunch, leaving the control room in chaos. The next morning, Riley's mother notices that Riley seems different, more impatient, and easily irritated. Realizing that her daughter is beginning puberty, Riley's emotions struggle to adjust, as the control panel becomes more sensitive, leading Riley to react more intensely to everything. Later, as Riley prepares for a camping trip, she learns that Bree and Grace are moving to new schools, making this their last weekend together. Saddened by this news, Riley arrives at camp and meets Valentina, the captain of the high school ice hockey team. Riley's emotions struggle to manage the situation, and a new emotion, anxiety, suddenly appears. Despite being anxious and paranoid, anxiety is there to help Riley navigate this new stage of life. Alongside anxiety, 3 more new emotions emerge: envy, a small girl; embarrassment, a strong but shy guy; and ennui, a rebellious teenager constantly glued to her cell phone. Although they mean well, joy and anxiety clash over how to guide Riley. Joy focuses on the present, while anxiety frets about the future, imagining both positive and negative outcomes. When Riley heads to the locker room to meet Bree and Grace, the coach arrives to start a rigorous training session. Anxiety and embarrassment urge Riley to be cautious, but Joy wants her to make the most of her last weekend with her friends. Unfortunately, the coach disapproves of Riley's cheerful attitude and insists on intense training. During a practice match, Riley is torn between joining her friend's team or aligning with Valentina. Joy encourages her to stay loyal to her friends, but anxiety, wanting to secure Riley's future, removes her sense of self and discards it. Anxiety then declares that the primary emotions can no longer fulfill Riley's needs and orders embarrassment to take them away. With the primary emotions out of the way, anxiety places one of her memories at the center of Riley's convictions, making it Riley's primary emotion going forward. Meanwhile, the primary emotions are trapped in a dark vault, where they meet 2 characters from Riley's hidden thoughts: Bluff, a dog with a magical fanny pack, and Warrior Lance, a video game hero. They also encounter Riley's darkest secret, represented by a hooded monster. The dark secret helps the emotions escape but chooses to stay behind, as it cannot be revealed yet. As the emotions flee, Riley's mind police chase after them, forcing them to journey to the far side of Riley's mind to recover her sense of self and return it to the control room. The next morning, with anxiety in control, Riley wakes up early to train. Valentina arrives, and Andy helps Riley engage in conversation by asking about her life. Later, the entire team, including Bree and Grace, arrives, but Riley pays little attention to her friends. Meanwhile, inside Riley's mind, Joy and the other primary emotions reach the river of consciousness, a stream that could take them to their destination. However, sadness reminds them that they can only retrieve Riley's sense of self if someone is at the control room to pull her through the new machine. Joy instructs Sadness to take a tube to the control room while the others continue along the river. As anxiety takes full control of Riley's mind, she generates new memories that are stored in Riley's belief system. This leads to the creation of a new sense of self, now influenced by the new emotions. Despite these changes, Riley excels in sports and forms new friendships with Valentina and her teammates. At the end of the day, as they spend time together, one of the girls asks Riley about her favorite music. Neither anxiety nor envy knows the answer since they are new to her mind, so they trigger a tunnel to access old memories. At the same time, Sadness, climbing through the tube, gets accidentally pulled into the control room along with the memories, but remains unnoticed by the new emotions. After searching through the memories, anxiety and envy find that Riley has liked a particular band since childhood. However, when Riley shares this with the older girls, they find the band childish. For the first time, Riley gives a sarcastic response, which causes chaos in her mental world. Just as Joy and the other primary emotions are about to cross the river, a large crater opens in front of them, forcing them to retreat to safety. On dry land, the primary emotions try to enlist the help of two operators across the crater to pull them out with a crane, but the operators refuse. Meanwhile, in the real world, Bree and Grace overhear Riley's sarcastic remark and remind her that she has always liked the band. To maintain her reputation with her new teammates, Riley continues to feign sarcasm, which causes more craters to form in her mental landscape. Hurt by her behavior, Bree and Grace walk away. Back in Riley's mind, the primary emotions continue their search for a way to restore Riley's sense of self. They arrive at the long-term memory storage, which is a complex labyrinth. Joy tries to use an elevator to find the right path, but she struggles to control it. This leads to disgust, anger, and fear, complaining about everything that has happened, blaming Joy for their situation. Overwhelmed by her friend's accusations, Joy finally breaks down, expressing her frustration at being unable to help Riley. She fears that her role as Riley's primary emotion may have been overtaken by anxiety. Realizing that Joy is distressed, the other emotions rally to support her. Anger then takes control of a memory vacuum from two nearby workers and activates the reverse command, using the vacuum to propel them out of the labyrinth. With a clearer view, they follow the path to recover Riley's sense of self. Meanwhile, in the control room, anxiety and envy are preparing for Riley's big game the next day, which could determine her future as a professional player. As they work on the control panel, Embarrassment senses a strange presence in the room. After searching, he discovers that Sadness has managed to sneak in unnoticed. As Sadness is quietly looking through Riley's mind manuals to figure out what to do, she realizes she's been discovered by Embarrassment. To her surprise, instead of revealing her presence, Embarrassment agrees to keep it a secret and even brings her more manuals to help her. Meanwhile, Joy and the other primary emotions reach Imagination Land, the place where all of Riley's creative thoughts originate. However, they notice that everything looks different, including the once bright pillow fort, which has turned more orange. Upon further investigation, they discover that anxiety has taken over Imagination Land, using it to create pessimistic scenarios in Riley's mind. The goal is to make Riley increasingly worried so that she'll perform better in the upcoming game. However, this plan only makes Riley more anxious, preventing her from sleeping. To counter this, Joy seizes the opportunity when a worker leaves his desk, and she begins drawing positive images. Disgust, anger, and fear join in, filling Riley's mind with more optimistic thoughts about the game, allowing her to finally get some rest. However, anxiety quickly senses something is wrong and suspects Joy's involvement. She orders the mind police to capture the intruders, but Joy, determined, persuades everyone that negative thoughts only harm Riley. She explains that Riley needs to stay positive to achieve her dreams without feeling bad about herself. Convinced by Joy's argument, the designers of Imagination Land start creating optimistic projections of the future, turning the place into a chaotic mess. Although anxiety is furious, Riley finally manages to sleep peacefully. Just as Joy and her friends arrive at the Future Careers Parade, they see several balloons representing Riley's dream professions. They grab onto one that depicts a Supreme Court judge, managing to escape through the air. Back in the control room, anxiety grows increasingly desperate, believing that without the negative projections, Riley won't be motivated to win the game. She and Envy then recall the coach's notebook, which is locked in her office. Even though they know it's a serious offense, the emotions force Riley to break into the office to find out what she needs to do to impress the coach. As Riley makes her way to the notebook, Sadness, still hidden, tries to figure out how to stop the new emotions from executing their plan. She notices that Envy has fallen asleep and dropped her phone. Seizing the opportunity, Sadness grabs the phone and uses an app to make Riley regret what she's doing. However, Anxiety quickly realizes what's happening and finds Sadness hiding under a blanket. She takes back the phone, leaves Sadness hanging from a bucket, and forces Riley to go through with the plan. When Riley opens the notebook, she's devastated to discover that the coach still doesn't think she's ready to play professionally. In a panic, Anxiety orders a flood of ideas to help come up with a new plan. At the same time, Joy and her friends are flying through the air when they get caught in a hurricane of ideas that sweeps them away. Joy notices that the ideas are all terrible and tries to destroy them, but they are too overwhelming, forcing them to flee. Suddenly, a massive idea, colored with Anxiety's signature hue, forms. Joy tries to hold it back to prevent it from reaching Riley's mind, but if she doesn't let go, everyone will be sucked into the hurricane. With no other choice, Joy releases the idea, allowing it to reach the control room while she and her friends fall to the ground. Just in time, Fear reveals that he has a parachute and manages to save everyone. The giant idea planted in Anxiety's mind is swiftly executed on the control panel, leading Riley to wake up the next morning with an intense determination to secure her place on the team at any cost. Fueled by this newfound obsession, she takes a stimulant, dyes her hair red to resemble Valentina, and heads out with a singular focus, to impress her teammates and coaches. However, her drastic changes and frantic efforts go unnoticed, as Bree and Grace, her closest friends, seem distant and uninspired by her actions. While Riley struggles in the real world, deep within her mind, joy and the other primary emotions have finally reached the most hidden parts of her consciousness. Here, they discover that Riley's sense of self is slowly disintegrating. This alarming change is the result of a new sense of self that Anxiety has inadvertently created, one where Riley is consumed by self-doubt, believing she's not good enough. Anxiety, realizing the unintended consequences of her actions, becomes desperate and tries to correct the situation, but only makes things worse. Simultaneously, Sadness, stranded and overwhelmed, seeks out the help of Embarrassment. Recognizing that Anxiety has made a grave mistake, Embarrassment concocts a plan to distract her long enough for Sadness to approach the control panel. Sadness activates the machine, hoping to pull back the sense of self that Joy had managed to recover. However, Anxiety catches on to what's happening and, in a frantic attempt to regain control, destroys the machine completely. With no means left to restore Riley's true sense of self, Joy loses all hope. She comes to a heartbreaking realization: she is no longer Riley's primary emotion, and the defeat seems inevitable. As the high-stakes hockey match approaches, Anxiety's control over Riley tightens. Anxiety fixates on the idea that Riley must score 3 goals to break Valentina's record and secure a spot on the professional team. When the match begins, Riley's anxiety-driven obsession manifests immediately as she scores the first goal, choosing to take a risky shot instead of passing to an open teammate. Meanwhile, back in Riley's mind, Joy remains despondent, questioning her role in Riley's life. However, her friends refuse to let her give up. They remind her that even if their influence has diminished, their duty to protect Riley's essence remains unchanged. In a moment of inspiration, Anger suggests summoning Pluff, the dog's magical fanny pack, hoping it might contain something that could help them. To everyone's relief, Pluff appears, and the emotions eagerly rummage through the fanny pack. To their dismay, all they find inside is dynamite. Joy, ever the optimist, quickly formulates a plan to use the dynamite to destroy the stone base where Riley's bad memories are stored. This drastic measure, she hopes, will reset Riley's mind and give them a chance to restore balance. Without a moment to lose, the primary emotions use the dynamite to blow up the base. The explosion sends them and Riley's bad memories hurtling through her mental world. Meanwhile, in the real world, Riley becomes increasingly obsessed with winning. Driven by her anxiety, her sole focus is on breaking Valentina's record, and she becomes reckless in her pursuit. After scoring her first goal, Riley attempts another, but this time she misses. Frustrated and desperate, she charges recklessly towards the opponent's goal, completely oblivious to the fact that her friend Grace is in her path. The two collide violently, resulting in Grace's injury. The referee immediately penalizes Riley, sending her off the ice for 2 minutes. This failure is the final straw for Anxiety, who completely loses control. Inside Riley's mind, Joy and her friends are swept away by the force of the bad memories and are thrown into the crater of sarcasm, where they plunge into a deep sea. Despite the overwhelming situation, they manage to swim to the conviction system, where they begin a perilous climb back to the control room. Meanwhile, inside Riley's mind, the emotion of tantrum spirals out of control, creating a violent hurricane on the control panel that terrifies the other emotions. Embarrassment, realizing the severity of the situation, teams up with the other emotions in a desperate effort to remove the false sense of self that anxiety has created. However, they find that they cannot remove it while the panel is still active. As Riley's anxiety manifests physically, causing her heart to race and her breathing to become erratic, Joy and the primary emotions finally reach the control room. Disgust, fear, and anger work together to remove the false sense of self, while Joy approaches Anxiety, pleading with her to stop. Saddened by the chaos she has caused and the failure of her plan, Anxiety relinquishes control, and Joy manages to pull her out of the hurricane. With the false sense of self removed, Riley's original sense of self is restored to the control panel. However, this alone isn't enough to soothe Riley's troubled mind. At this critical juncture, Anxiety sincerely apologizes for her actions, acknowledging that no emotion alone can change who Riley truly is at her core. Joy also comes to a profound realization: she had been making the same mistake as Anxiety. By trying to control Riley's emotions and separate the good memories from the bad, she was inadvertently limiting Riley's ability to grow and evolve. However, as all the emotions found themselves in the conviction system, they began to weave new connections that ultimately led to the formation of a new sense of self, one that is more complex, incorporating all of Riley's emotions, both positive and negative. In a moment of clarity, the emotions come to understand that Riley's true essence lies in her ability to embrace all aspects of herself, flaws and virtues alike. United by this understanding, they embrace the new sense of self together. As they do, Riley begins to calm down. In the real world, Bree and Grace, noticing that something is wrong with their friend, approach Riley. Overwhelmed with guilt, Riley tearfully apologizes for the way she treated them. The three friends share a heartfelt moment of reconciliation, and Bree and Grace invite Riley back into the game. Riley, now more self-aware and determined to be a better person, gladly accepts. With Riley's emotions now working in harmony, Joy is once again called to the control panel, a clear indication of her continued importance in guiding Riley's mind. This time, however, Joy's approach is different. She helps Riley play not just with the goal of winning, but with the intention of enjoying the moment, appreciating the joy of the game, and cherishing the company of the people she loves. The next day, Riley, Valentina, and their classmates find themselves anxiously awaiting the coach's decision regarding Riley's future with the team. Inside Riley's mind, her emotions are now united in their mission to support her, no matter what the outcome may be. As they wait, Riley receives a heartfelt message from Bree and Grace, encouraging her and reminding her of the importance of their friendship. Finally, Riley's phone buzzes with a message from the coach. As she reads it, a smile slowly spreads across her face, signaling good news. Inside her mind, Joy breathes a sigh of relief, knowing that Riley is on the right path. Later, Joy takes a trip to the Room of Secrets, where she finally uncovers the mystery of the dark secret that Riley had been hiding. To her surprise and relief, the secret is revealed to be something relatively minor. Riley once accidentally burned a huge hole in the living room carpet. Joy is relieved, having feared that the secret was something far more embarrassing, like an incident at the pool. The dark secret, now even more embarrassed by the attention, quickly retreats back into the safe, determined to keep any further secrets hidden.